The town of Ashbury was surrounded by miles of farmland, its soil rich and fertile, its fields endless. Generations of farmers had built their lives here, tilling the land, planting crops, and harvesting under the waning autumn sun. But there was one field, just beyond their outskirts, that no one dared to touch. It belonged to Silas Crowley, at least it once did. Crowley had been an old bitter man, working his fields long after his body had withered. Neighbours would see his lantern glow deep into the night, hear the creak of his harvester running even when the season had ended. Then one autumn evening, Silas vanished. His old scythe was found lodged deep in the soil, its blade rusted and worn, yet no trace of him remained. Stories took root, whispered between locals, passed down over time. Some claimed Silas had been swallowed by his own land, cursed to reap for eternity. Others said his harvester had developed a hunger of his own, feeding on more than just wheat and corn. Whatever the truth, the field was abandoned, the crops growing wild, untouched by human hands. It was late one autumn when the farmhand arrived in town. He had no interest in ghost stories, only work. The land was rich, and the harvest plentiful. He heard the warnings, the tales of a haunted machine, but he paid them no mind. He had seen enough rusted relics in his time, old harvesters, long past their use. Nothing more than decaying iron and forgotten history. But the first time he passed by the field at dusk, something unsettled him. The air was thick, the scent of damp earth stronger than anywhere else. The crops stood impossibly tall, shifting as though something moved within them. The sky darkened, and in the distance, beyond the rows of unkempt stalks, he thought he saw a shape, standing motionless, obscured by shadow. That night the wind carried an unfamiliar sound, the deep rhythmic whirring of machinery. It came in waves, rising and falling, growing louder before fading into the distance. The farmhand listened from his bed, straining his ears. The old harvester should have been silent, rusted beyond repair, yet its presence pressed against the night air like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Curiosity turned to obsession. He found himself drawn to the field, watching it from a distance, waiting for movement. He noticed strange things, the way the crops seemed to shift in patterns, the way footprints would appear in the soil only to vanish by the morning. The old barn nearby, long abandoned, carried the scent of rust and decay, its wooden beams groaning even when the wind was still. Then one night the sound returned, louder, closer. It was no longer a distant hum, but a present something grinding, cutting, moving. He stepped outside, the chill biting at his skin, and turned his gaze to the field. The night was darker than usual, the moon shrouded behind thick, restless clouds. The wind had died, yet the crops swayed as if something unseen was passing through them. The scent of rust and damp earth thickened in the air. His pulse quickened. The harvester was moving. At first, it was a whisper of sound, the faint clinking of metal brushing against itself, a deep groan of ancient gears struggling against time. Then, with an unnatural shudder, the machine lurched forward. It did not roll, it glided, its massive rusted wheels hovering just above the earth. The ground beneath it did not shake, yet the air around it seemed to tremble. He felt something shift inside his chest, a primal instinct screaming at him to run, but his legs refused. The harvester's silhouette loomed, its rusted frame skeletal in the moonlight. The blades, dulled by time and decay, should have been useless, should have been motionless, but they spun. Slowly at first, a sickly dragging rotation, before picking up speed. The whisper of metal on metal became a screech, a wail that climbed higher, louder, piercing the silence of the night. The crops parted as it passed, but the movement was unnatural, jerky, as though the machine was dragging something unseen through the field. The farmhand's breath hitched. The smell of iron flooded his nostrils, sharp and metallic, thick like blood. Something was wrong. The furrows left behind in the machine's wake weren't clear lines of tilled soil. They were deep, jagged gashes, uneven and raw, like claw marks raked into the earth. Dark patches dotted the ground, damp and glistening in the moonlight. Then, without warning, the harvester stopped. The silence crashed down around him. No wind, no rustling stalks, just the rhythmic pounding of his heart in his ears. The machine stood still, its ghastly work complete, and yet the blades were still wet. By morning, the farmhand was gone. His boots sat at the edge of the field, half buried in the disturbed earth. The soil was darker than before, as though it had been freshly turned. No one spoke of it, just as they had never spoken of Silas Crowley's disappearance all those years ago. The field remained untouched. The harvester stood in its place, rusted, unmoving, waiting.